Recently, your timeline may have been invaded by a swarm of smiling kids, all shined up and ready for their first day of school. A made-for-social media moment ripe for sharing. And looking at those back-to-school pics and these future freshmen waiting to enter New York citywide high school fair, it's easy to forget all the students who've seen their last first day of school. The class of 2017 that won't cross the stage in 2021. Disconnected youth. That's young people 16 to 24 who aren't working or in school. And upwards of 700,000 of them call New York City home. That figure gets bleaker when you learn less than half of the city high school graduates are deemed college ready. Brooklyn and the Bronx seem to be in a race to the bottom, with the greatest clusters of school districts with the lowest levels of college readiness. Imagine navigating the nation's largest and most segregated school system, where the best schools graduate 97% of their seniors, and the worst about 50%, and still having no prospects. My parents raised my brother and me with a pair of high school diplomas and about 6 months worth of community college between them. But these days, stopping with a secondary school education gets you a third-rate paycheck, even with the New York City minimum wage on track to hit $15 by 2019. That's $31,200 a year before taxes. Now, you can't fault the New York City Department of Education for the Great Recession or the machines coming to steal our jobs. But when it comes to the education part, there's more than enough blame to go around. Mayoral control extended to a system with apartheid schools, underprepared graduates, high teacher turnover, and a crumbling physical infrastructure. Disconnected youth are standing on the corner and sitting in the classroom. Are we going to intervene now in the Department of Education or later in the Department of Corrections? Because you don't have to be at the head of the class to do the math on that one. So, let's go in. It all starts in PreK.
You see Horace?
So who's the big kid anyway? Lots of fun for the little ones, but for many parents, the tuition is enough to make you ForProfit Colleges. This one in downtown Brooklyn offers degrees, but do you get what you pay for?
What makes you mad?
Because they did nothing for me. They just give me a debt of $32,000.
We're giving them straight A's for non-committal answers.
Fifth Amendment, I'll take the fifth. Can we move on?
Parker, he's like somebody that knows when you're feeling sad.
The school psychologist? The guidance counselor? Nope, Parker's a dog. But what's he doing in middle school? And what did the principal think of having a dog in the classroom?
I looked at her like she had 7 heads, honestly.
The lesson plan for this episode? We're going in to get some education. Nearly 30 years ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger had a hit on his hands, playing a detective deep undercover in Kindergarten Cop. And while Arnold played it for laughs, childcare is serious business. Serious because it's the first step on the path to formal education, and it sure ain't cheap. 11 million children younger than 5 are in some form of childcare in the United States. Here in New York City, 24% of the population is under 18. In fact, Manhattan has had a baby boom, and the number of New Yorkers under 5 has grown by more than 32%. But at Hanson Place Child Development Center, the under 5 set is definitely the majority. But this afternoon, I'm tipping the balance by joining the teaching staff.
So we're gonna read a book now. Maybe you've heard of this one. Stop me if you've heard it. Mean Soup.
Mean soup. I know that mean soup.
You know it? Has anyone ever had any mean soup?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it'll tell us.
I don't.
No? Maybe it'll tell us how to make a mean soup. All right, so let's start this off. Mean Soup by Betsy Everett. All right, all of a sudden I'm LeVar Burton. You ready? Horace is the star of our book. It had been a bad day for Horace. You see Horace? His mother said, "How was your day?" And Horace growled. Do you know what a growl sounds like? Then, taking a breath, she screamed into the pot. Does anyone know what a scream sounds like? Yes, just like that. He breathed his best dragon breath. Germs, 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 no more dragon breath.
Yes, there are fun and games, but it's still hard work if you're doing it right.
What have you learned working here?
It is not a job for everyone. I learned that it is not an easy job to do, and a lot of people don't realize how much work is put into nurturing these children on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. What keeps you up at night when you think about your job?
A lot of time what keeps me up at night are those children who are in need and have special needs that we cannot attend to and need services outside of our care. And I often think about those parents or those families who they don't really understand, or they don't really know, they're not knowledgeable in what's going to happen to this kid once they leave
Just
this
navigating
space.
everything outside.
Life in general.
What if you hide and I find you? Okay, I'm gonna count.
The United Federations of Teachers salary schedule for a new non-universal pre-K school teacher with a bachelor's degree is just over $36,000 a year and tops out at $41,000 after 20 years of experience. One national study found that in New York State, the cost of a year's care for an infant is nearly double the cost of a year's tuition at a public college. That's the widest gap of any state.
We're talking $30,000 a year to walk through the door. And that's a bar that a lot of people can't make. And I imagine if you are working here and you have to send your kids somewhere, that takes a large chunk of your paycheck too.
Well, that was a huge conflict when I had my second daughter when I was here. This is quality childcare, and so I can't even bring her here because I don't make the money that it takes to have her here. And so that was a huge conflict for my family. And so when I was on maternity, it was like either I don't come back to work or we have to figure something out.
Shaquan isn't alone in her dilemma. Nationally, families with 2 children spend more for childcare than on housing. And for single parents, the math is even more stark, leading some to leave the workforce entirely to care for their children.
So what do you wish that everybody who ever dropped a kid off and went about their lives for the next few hours knew that you just wish they had an idea of?
That preschool matters, that the people taking care of your preschoolers matter, that we feel honored to be able to set up an environment for children to become the people that they are. Yep. And that we need more money.
And that.
So I took 40 kids to the high school fair. I tried to tell them what they'd be doing at the high school fair, why it's important. We took over an hour to get here. And then we come to the high school fair and all the schools, well, half the schools, no one showed. They have the booths set up and there's no one there. I'm disappointed. I mean, this was a waste of time in all honesty. You want kids to make a commitment. You want kids to take this seriously. And how could they take it seriously? If you don't show up, how could you take it seriously? Why should we go to your schools? I mean, these kids actually want to go to your school. They want to learn. The least you could do is be there and talk to them.
college may be years away for these students, but you've seen the ads and maybe even been approached by their recruiters on the street. But what you don't know about for-profit colleges may make you think twice before taking on the high price of proprietary education.
You want what's best for your life, for your family. You need a career.
I call, this is my saying, I call ASA the second and third chance school. A lot of our students come out of the traditional school system. A lot of our students have been working on jobs for a very long time. The jobs have been outsourced, making low income, a very low income. They decide to come to ASA. Remember, our programs are very short. You receive an associate degree in just 16 months.
Yeah. How long do you think it was going to take?
16 months. That's what they told me.
Yeah. So 16 months, you be out with your degree, new job, fresh start, all of that.
Yeah.
So what was the reality versus what
I did
you were
3
told?
years.
Santos was a single mom on government assistance, and when welfare reform required her to get a job or go to school, she enrolled at ASA with the goal of becoming an officer with the NYPD. But time ran out on that plan.
I was trying to become NYPD, but by the time I graduated, they told me I was too old. And I didn't know I was supposed to take the test before I graduated.
And no one in school told you
Nope.
this is the timeline?
Nope, none of that.
So we're standing in front of your campus now. You feel all nostalgic for the days when you were in college?
All it's doing is just pissing me off.
Yeah, so really, how do you
That's
feel
it.
standing across
I'm
from here?
pissed off. I'm so pissed off.
What makes you mad?
Because they did nothing for me, but just give me a debt of $32,000.
$32,000 and a 16-month degree that she earned over the course of 3 years.
They promise people financial aid, and the recruits understand that to mean grants. They understand that to mean they won't have to pay anything, when actually by financial aid what they mean is the availability of federally guaranteed student loans.
Jane Greengold Stevens is an attorney at the New York Legal Assistance Group, a nonprofit that provides free legal services to low-income New Yorkers. In 2014, she was the lead attorney in a class action complaint brought against ASA College by 8 former students, alleging they were victims of a massive scheme to draw millions in federal and state aid while defrauding them through systematic misrepresentations.
So what was the goal then when you walked into court and filed and said, all right, ASA, we're staring you down? Did you want to shut them down, or did you want to get these people money back?
Ideally, actually, I would have wanted to shut them down or seriously reform their practices. Because otherwise, if you got the people money back who'd already been there and they were still there committing the same fraud and engaging in the same fraudulent behavior, then there'd be a whole nother set of people coming down the pike who are suffering the same wrong.
Dwayne Carthen, ASA's Director of Government Relations and Community Outreach, was a named defendant in the lawsuit.
So why is there a target on you guys then? Why do you think it's the negative?
You're asking some good questions, and I'm going to answer them, all right? The reason why is because we're doing such a good job.
You're doing such a good job that you got sued?
Remember, you're talking about a lawsuit that we won. So you can't talk about
a lawsuit that was settled.
No, it was not settled. We didn't pay anything, right?
We went in and discovered that after a year, the U.S. District Court in Manhattan had in fact dismissed one part of the original complaint, and in 2016 ordered a settlement agreement negotiated by both parties. But the agreement left the door open for any former student other than the 8 plaintiffs in the original complaint to pursue future actions against ASA. People like Santos.
No, I don't want no money. I don't want no money. Just wipe the debt, because I ain't got nothing out of it. They misrepresented themselves.
Santos's number isn't extraordinary. It's actually completely average. The average cost of a 2-year associate's degree at a for-profit college is $35,000, and a certificate program will run you about $20,000. That's more than 4 times the price tag at a comparable community or public college. So why would anyone choose a for-profit school when they themselves make no guarantees? Promises made, promises kept.
ASA bring opportunity. Come on here, live here in New York, study, play basketball, and finish my career.
It's better than CUNY.
Why is it better than CUNY?
Because you don't have to take extra classes. Okay. Nobody wants to take extra classes that has nothing to do with their degree. Like you're adding on to it. So theirs is 2 years and ours is a year and some change.
Apparently, some 4,600 plus students share the same sentiments. ASA accepts 84% of all applicants, and its minority enrollment is 94%, far outpacing the New York State average of 52%. Nationally, black students are enrolling in college at nearly twice the rate of whites. In 2011, the University of Phoenix and the online-only Ashford University graduated more black students than any other schools in the country.
You talk about outreach, but they seem to think it's like predatory, that you're going after these specific communities who don't have a lot of other options. You're not up at
I beg to differ.
The best schools in the city.
I beg to differ.
Yeah.
Because you have a subculture in Brownsville.
Yeah.
You have a subculture in Bed-Stuy. You have individuals who don't even leave the community.
Yeah.
They stay on that park bench.
Well,
they have
it's like you recruit at a park bench in Bed-Stuy, but not at Brooklyn Tech down the street.
That's not true. I beg to differ. Okay. I go out to every high school in the city of New York to recruit and speak to them.
Not everyone can go to Harvard. Some people need places like ASA to get to the next step in their life, right?
Actually, nobody needs a place like ASA because it offers no value. But people could go to CUNY schools and they'd be a lot better off because they'd get legitimate education and they would pay so much less money and have so much less debt.
In 2012, the U.S. Senate completed a 2-year investigation into the for-profit college industry. They found low retention rates, aggressive recruiting, and high rates of loan default. But it still didn't stop the flow of $7.5 billion worth of federal Pell Grants to the proprietary institutions. So what's it going to take to shut down these for-profit proprietary institutions?
If the federal government did not allow them to participate in the guaranteed student loan program, they would all go out of business because almost all their money comes through that program. So actually the federal government has it within its power to stop this kind of behavior.
So give me a grade on your college.
B+.
You may not intend to be a classics major, but some wisdom for the ages. Caveat emptor. Let the buyer beware, even in the classroom. So for folks who've never experienced this, like when I was going to high school, there was nothing like this in Chicago where I'm from. So what are you feeling having survived your first high school fair here?
I'm not going to go to another one. You know, it is overwhelming, and I think it in some ways adds to the anxiety that one might already feel over the process. And I don't think the process needs to be so anxiety ridden. We happen to be fortunate enough to go to a school that's holding our hand through the steps. And so they broke it down for us.
Very cool. Is that the norm or is that an exception?
I think it's an exception. It's a small school, but really, I don't think there's no trick. It's like literally you go through the steps and you suck it up. It's 2 months of your life.
What if the teacher's pet really is the teacher's pet? In 2016, Park Place Community Middle School in Bed-Stuy was one of the first to implement a new program created by the city's Department of Education. We're about to meet Peter Parker and find out his method for teaching students about emotions, their own and others.
Peter Parker gives me the privilege to have fun. Happy, kind, and joyful. He's lazy,
He's friendly, he listens to you, and he understands how you feel.
He's a great distraction.
Stop saying the words.
Can we come in?
At first, I really wasn't I didn't know anything about the program. And so when my guidance counselor came back and said, oh, I went to training today and the chancellor said we should have a dog in the school, I looked at her like she had 7 heads, honestly. And, but she convinced me, she said, let's at least try. Let them have them come in and kind of explain the program.
It's twofold. Mud Agrees is an idea that was created by our president to be a play on the word pedigree. But what Mud Agrees does is it raises the status of the shelter pet and brings awareness to rescue. And what Yale University wanted to do was to write a social emotional learning curriculum to enhance children's mental health. 1 in 5 children actually suffer from mental health issues. So we thought what better way to do that than to take this social emotional learning curriculum and bridge it with humane education to make it experiential. Once in a while, kids threw things at me. I couldn't protect myself. I didn't know why they did that. When I got twisted in the chain, I couldn't sit down or move until someone from the house came and untangled it. Many days, those people forgot to change the water in my dish. It tasted bad. I was so thirsty, I drank it anyway. We know that the oxytocin level is increased. That's the bonding when you have a child or when you're in love. That's the hormone that increases, that makes you very calm and feel good. And we know that dogs do this. But we really don't quite understand is the affinity and that human-animal bond that children have with dogs. And what we've seen in the classroom really is, I think a lot of it has to do with they both are vulnerable to kindness, but they're also vulnerable to suffering.
I first wanted to be a part of it because, I saw a dog. I want to be petting the dog. I want to be a part of it. But then when I started seeing what we were doing, I wanted to be more a part of it to help Parker, to help get dogs across the world and schools.
Sit first. Touch first. Very good. And then he's already in sit position. So we're going to ask him for something else. Whatever you want. You can ask him for paw. You can try to do down. Paw. Very good. And treat.
My name is Shanice Cardona, and I am Parker's owner. They relate to him. They see him. He can be laying down on the floor, and they'll go to him because he looks lonely by himself. And then I'll relate it to a situation where, what if you see another person, another student alone?
How'd it go, everyone?
Good.
Yeah?
It feels like a responsibility because Parker, he's like somebody that knows when you're feeling sad. Like, I remember one time, there's this boy named Javier.
I'm Javier Guillermo Rosado, and I'm 12 years old. It's rare, slight times where you'll see me upset.
He was feeling sad, and Parker, he kind of picked that up.
That's a 1 out of 1,000 chance I'll ever get upset.
And he was right there beside Javier, laying on his lap, which was kind of good.
You try to get me down in spirits, I'm just gonna think the happy version of that. So there's no really upsetting me.
So you're kind of like Peter Parker?
Yeah.
Let's go, baby. Come. Some students can't have dogs for whatever typical reason. And so, yes, I own him, but he's not mine.
Because they've seen how he's made a change, especially with our kids who are really introverted children. Like, he helps lend them voice.
Just talking and connecting and sharing, that's helping these children to deal with where they are right now in their life. And not just to deal with it, but also to give them hope.
They make a difference. 5 minutes you see them and you're just like, yay, hi, and then you're just uplifting, like you don't understand why, but you're ready to go.
It's kind of weird because like it's not like every school have this type of opportunity to be in a school with a dog.
Basically, he is a comfort dog. Makes everybody comfortable while you're walking around in school, so.
Instead of getting in drama at school, you know, you have a dog you could go and hang out with.
I feel like Parker, no matter what, he's gonna listen. I get more in love and affection from Parker than my teachers because teachers, they're more strict and they want to make sure you're on top of your game. But with Parker, he's just there for your company or, you know, like to give you love.
While every perspective isn't as universal as PreK, we'll keep bringing you the voices of our borough if you keep speaking out. In fact, why don't you share a link with a friend? Going In and everything else we produce at BRIC TV is online at youtube.com/BRIC TV. I'm Brian Vines. Bye now.